explain it like I'm 5.
Are you 5
I'm
and a
not.
podcast listener? Well, you're in the right place because this is where we talk about the topics that are really meaningful to you. All right, what do these 5-year-olds really want to hear about today, Jen?
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Financial advisors. When is it time to see one? How do I find one? What should I be looking for? What's my checklist?
Oh my God, this should be explained like I'm writing a PhD thesis because the more I learn about this topic, the more just insane it gets. And I'm just gonna spoiler it. 5-year-olds go back to Blippi. Just turn this one off. It's no fun at all. But I'll get to it. So, in the world of comments, pop culture, talking to friends, media, whatever, it's just so easy to fling out this advice. Talk to a financial advisor. In fact, I was just watching this very funny, like satire parenting channel, and they were like answering common parenting questions or medical questions, and like every single answer was talk to your pediatrician. It was like completely and utterly unhelpful. It's like talk to your pediatrician. It's like, yeah, no shit, but like, since I'm not talking to my pediatrician, can you give me some information? And so I feel like it's the same for financial advisors. Like talk to a financial advisor. Oh, okay, just not. But then it's as though that's this like obvious easy thing to do, but it's not.
Right.
Pediatricians, maybe it's a little bit easier. Obviously, like I'm not going to get like navigating the medical system in the U.S., which can be very challenging. But financial advisors has its own set of challenges. So first, I think the important thing to know is the difference between a financial advisor and a CPA. A CPA is a certified public accountant. It's basically someone whose primary focus for most individuals is tax preparation and helping you with your accounting and your filing and preparing and submitting of your taxes. And for most people, when you're young, you don't need a CPA or a financial advisor. And as your tax situation is more complex, you need a CPA. But if you go to a financial advisor and say, hey, will you file my taxes? Most of them will say, that's not what I do. Likewise, if you go to your CPA or your tax accountant and say, hey, what should I invest in? They will likely say, or maybe legally obligated to say, that's not what I do. And so when we're talking about like licensed, registered financial advisors, we're usually talking about investment advisors. These are people who help with the investing world. And there's some overlap, and there's also some gaps, things like budgeting and things like that would fall more under a financial advisor, but it's not really what they're licensed in. You don't even need to be licensed to help someone with budgeting, but you could go to a financial advisor who might just know how to do that and help you with that. So that's point of confusion number 1. Point number 2, before you talk to a financial advisor, I think you need to educate yourself. If you don't know even the basics, if you haven't watched like the 30-minute YouTube video on intro to investing, you are just making yourself a lamb for the slaughter. There's no way to know if you're talking to a good financial advisor or a bad one. And unfortunately, in this world of financial advisors, I'm going to get to it a bit in a second, but there's like this massive mess of people who are commissioned salespeople who are maybe super nice and gregarious and fun and friendly and give you a gift or whatever, and you seem to really know what they're talking about, and they don't actually have your best interest in their mind at all. They're trying to sell you something. And if you don't know the first thing about investing, then you're probably going to end up in one of their offices and maybe get burned. So I'd say if you are just like, oh, this is also confusing, start with reading a book, Intro on Investing, going to YouTube, look up investing. We have a Start Here video series. If you go to personalfinanceclub.com, right on the homepage, the first button says Start Here. It's 10 5-minute videos. It's just like, what do you actually do with the basics? Oh my God, Jen, what is happening over there?
I just went like this, and I have no idea how that happened.
It did again.
Oh
if you are listening and not watching, on Jen's camera, she's had like twice in a row a laser light show. I for a year battled with making like inadvertent hand motions and my screen doing something crazy. And in fact, it would cause, like, I had this fancy DSLR camera I use to record videos, and it would cause the camera to crash, and I have to like leave the Zoom and come back out. And so I didn't know, just like, do you actually know how that just happened?
Well, you were plugging the site, so I was like, yeah, rock on. And then
Yeah.
But I know that sometimes thumbs up does stuff, but
Yeah,
like, I guess it's an Apple
exactly.
thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So Jen's screen just went crazy. To
I'm
those listening in the
curious.
car, Yeah, but now she can't get to repeat. Okay, let's get back.
Anyway,
no more.
personalfinanceclub.com. You're plugging the website and the
Exactly.
mini-series, yes.
Right. So educate yourself, because if you walk into a financial advisor office and haven't even done the first thing, it might do more harm than good even. And so I'm sorry, I apologize for the state of the world, but you got to do a little bit of homework. But it could be like watching this video series for an hour, right? Point number 3 to know: you don't need a financial advisor to invest. Even in this year, 2026, year of our Lord 2026, I see people on the Twitter, on the threads. I'm trying to make my Jen is just recoiling in horror as I misuse internet slang.
You're like the most internet-y person. You know
exactly.
these things.
That's the joke.
Oh, okay.
I built the Googles, so I know how the Googles work. No, I see people on now X or Threads or whatever, and they're like, can someone give me a good financial advisor? I want to start investing. And I'm like, yo, you do not need a financial advisor to start investing. In fact, you're probably worse off trying to find one. You can literally go get an app like Robinhood and then buy some stocks with it. I don't recommend Robinhood, obviously, if you know the show, but like a better beginner's option might be something like Betterment or Wealthfront. They're really simple apps, or even like Acorns. There's a bunch of these apps that are really easy to use that are totally legit investing, like very good investing. And you can just put your money in and it just does it. And if you're like in the less than $50,000 invested range, your investing is so dramatically much more about how much you put in than how good you are at investing, that how good you are at investing is almost meaningless. Like, to get to your $50,000, you just need to put more money in. Right. And so if you're putting in Wealthfront or putting in Betterment, putting in Acorns, that's what's most important early on, not about picking the right stocks or, it's just about putting money in. Yeah. So you don't need a financial advisor to get started. And going back to point 2, like, educate yourself first, learn how to get started on your own. I think you'll get more out of a financial advisor if you walk in saying, hey, I've got 25,000, I've got 50,000, I've got 75,000. This is what I'm doing. Now I know what questions to ask. Now I know what I'm trying to do. If you walk into a financial advisor being like, hey, I have $100 a month, what do I do? They're going to just be holding your hand, like reading like baby's first book on investing, when like you could read that on your own, no disrespect to babies. Okay. All right. Point 4. This is like the most non-5-year-old explain like I'm 5 ever. Point 4. A financial advisor will not magically get you above market returns. I think this is like a myth, and I think it's becoming a more outdated myth, but not gone, of financial advisors. I remember like distinctly sitting in a cab in my 20s talking to a friend of mine, and she worked for a financial advisor, and I didn't know anything back then. I knew nothing. I was 25, I was a total idiot. And I was asking her, like, how does he make money being a financial advisor? And she was like, oh, he takes a percent of all the assets that he manages on behalf of people. So all these rich people give him their money. He takes a percent per year from everyone. And then with the remaining 99%, he invests. And I said something like, doesn't that hurt? Maybe I was a little bit precocious back then, even as a chippy little 25-year-old. I was like, doesn't that hurt their gains? And she said, no, because my boss is such a brilliant investor dude. He gets a 13% return compared to the S&P 500's 10% return. So therefore, even net of the 1% fee, his investors, from their perspective, are getting 12% instead of 10%.
Now, hold up. Was she lying or misinformed?
She was not lying. She was repeating the sales pitch that he gave the investors. But, only because you're the co-host of the Personal Finance Club show do alarm bells go off in your head and be like, wait a minute, this guy just magically gets better returns every year, And because, Jen, the answer is he doesn't. That's not true. Financial advisors don't magically get better than market returns, like study after study after study after study. So if you are paying your advisor 1% per year, and your expectation or your hope is they're going to pay for themselves back through better returns, that's not going to happen. That's not what they do. That's not how it works. Any individual advisor wearing a suit and tie sitting at his computer can't take your money and magically get better returns than the return of the total stock market. That's just not how it works. Of course, we don't need to get into the whole thing. People can short term sometimes get lucky and beat the market over short periods of time, but don't pay a fee expecting to get better returns. That's not what a financial advisor does. So, what does a financial advisor do? They can answer questions for you about your plans. So they can look at portfolio review. So for example, if you are that person who got to $50,000 and said, am I buying the right things now? They can look at that and answer your questions, see if you are making mistakes. They can answer questions like, am I on track to retire, that are more complicated and include things like Social Security and pensions and insurance and cost of living changes and inflation, all these moving pieces, the date you retire and other sources of income that maybe is complex enough for you not to feel confident on your own. A financial planner can help with that. They can help with investing tax topics. While they won't be filing your taxes, they can help with things like, hey, should I be doing Roth conversions this year? What should I do with this inherited IRA? Should I be selling some of my gains? Should I be doing tax loss harvesting? Investment or tax return or tax topics as they relate to investing generally. They can do an insurance review. Do you have enough life insurance for estate planning? We talk about estate planning a lot, basically a plan to get your assets to your kids or your beneficiaries or your charities upon your death. They can help with that. And they can help answer the question, what am I missing? A lot of times, even me who does this kind of for a living, I would probably benefit from having a financial advisor just like have an expert second set of eyes. And, at my scale, I've got, $6 million or so net worth between real estate, different investments, cash, all this stuff. Having an expert set of eyes, paying them $500 or $1,000 or whatever could easily save me that much just if they catch a mistake I didn't know about. And so that's the kind of things that you should be thinking about. What can a financial advisor do for me? Not they're going to beat the S&P 500 for me, because they're not. Mm-hmm. Okay. That was like the big lead in. Jen's just like over here.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
On the edge of my seat. Okay. So when you asked, how do I find one? What should I be looking for? It's very, I can't just tell you how to find a good financial advisor. A lot of it has to do with their expertise, with their personality, how well they mesh with you. But what I will say is it's really, really important to know how they make money. If you're looking for one thing, it's look for that. And because financial advisors make money in one of three main ways. Number one is commission-based financial advisors. This is also kind of more officially called fee-based. And these fee words are so confusing. Everyone gets confused by them. And so I'm going to try to make it clear. Fee-based means they charge commissions. They get a piece of the action when they convince you to do something, not to be confused with the very similar sounding fee only. These are the stupidest terms. Like the whole financial advisor industry needs a new marketing person. But fee-based and fee-only are kind of opposites. Fee-based means they get commissions. Fee-only means they don't get commissions, okay? So fee-based means if I walk into a fee-based financial advisor, someone who gets some commissions, they're going to sit me down and they're going to see me as like a plump chicken who's ripe for the plucking.
Back here.
I know, and they're going to say, have you thought about your life insurance? And I'm going to say, Burgle? And they're going to say, well, you can borrow against the cash value. I'm going to say, Burgle. And because they only make money if I buy the things that they're selling or the things for which they get a commission for, whether it's investments, insurance, whatever it is. And it's such a massive, mind-blowing, dizzying conflict of interest that someone whose job is to help you with money makes money based on what they convince you to buy. Like, it's like the most like orthogonal, or not even orthogonal. I threw that in just for you. She hates that word. It's the most direct conflict of interest. It's like two arrows, where they have the exact opposite interest of you, right? Mm-hmm. And in other countries, I think in the UK, it's not even legal. They're not allowed to earn commissions because it's such a conflict of interest.
They're smarter than us.
And how do you tell if an advisor is commission-based? You ask this question: how do you make money? If they say, oh, the advice is free, or my company pays me, or we make money when you make money, or, our interests are aligned, or anything like that. Like, if they talk around it, in my opinion, that's a bold-faced lie. What they mean is, I make commission from selling you products, but they can't say it because it's so offensive sounding. So if they can't answer that clearly, run, don't walk out of there. There's no reason to do business with someone who can't answer the question, how do you make money, right? And I've heard all those things like, oh, my company pays me. Like, come on, jerk. I'm not asking where's your W-2 getting sent from? I'm asking, how are you making money from me? So I hate when they talk around that question. Okay. That's way number one, commission-based financial advisors. Way number two is AUM or fee-only financial advisors. Again, way number one, fee-based. Way number two, fee-only. Fee-only means they charge you directly a fee, but that's the only way they make money, which is they don't earn commissions. They don't have sales pitches. They don't sell products. And this is dramatically better. But how most of the fee-only financial advisors make money is by charging an AUM fee, which stands for assets under management, which is exactly how that financial advisor I learned out about from my friend's job made money. He says, hey, I'm going to charge you 1% of everything you give me per year. So if you give me $1 million, I'm taking $10,000 per year, putting it in my pocket. And with the other $990,000, I'm going to invest it for you. And remember when I went through that list of things that financial advisors can do for you? Am I on track to retire? Tax topics, insurance review. What am I missing? Very little of the job of a financial advisor is clicking buy on the few funds you should be investing in. In fact, I was in a financial advisor, meetup Zoom meeting thing. There's about 50 advisors on the call the other day. And the host asked, how much time per year do you spend managing the assets of your clients, like actually doing the asset management, the AUM fee, assets under management, right? And the average answer was like 10 minutes because clicking trade on a website takes 2 seconds and maybe you do it 4 times a year for, a client or whatever. It takes very little time. And so it's very, and the AUM advisors will say, yeah, of course that's true, but complexity scales pretty closely with asset size. Someone who's got $100,000 probably is a much simpler situation. Someone who has $10 million, we got to make a living some way. This is a way to kind of like align our interests and make it elastic and make, align it with the client's willingness to pay for it or ability to pay for it. And that's all true. But I don't love the AUM fee because one, it gets very expensive. If you have $1 million, it's $10,000 a year. If you have $10 million, it's $100,000 a year. And that's all money that's kind of getting drained from the growth of your investments, largely invisible to you because they take it directly out of your investments instead of you having to pay for it with your credit card or write a check. And so over time, it can really hurt the growth of your investments. And it kind of creates this weird conflict of interest where they don't really have an interest in helping you know when you can retire. They really have an interest in you maybe keep working to put more money in so they can get a bigger 1% of a bigger amount of money. And their only interest is really keeping your assets under management. I know this is a very long answer, but this is like what I do with my life. So I'm passionate about it. Okay, so that's way number two. Way number one, commission-based, I would say always avoid. Way number two is AUM. Way better, but it might not be right for your situation. I'd say it's often better for older people. That 1% kind of makes less of a big difference if you don't have 50 years of investing in front of you. And the AUM advisors will only really work with you if you have at least 6 figures. Some people, sometimes, well into the 7 figures. I know a few advisors who won't talk to you unless you have $2 million. They don't even want to work with you. You have $250,000. And so if you have $50,000 and you want to go pay 1% per year, they're going to, be very nice to you and then kick you out the door. All right. And then the third way is what I call a flat fee financial advisor. So fee-based means they charge you commission. Fee only means they don't charge you commission, but they probably charge you an AUM fee. And then the last way is flat fee. Flat fee means if you go to a financial advisor and ask them, how do I pay? Or can I pay you with a credit card? Flat fee advisors will answer, yes. Everyone else will answer, no. The AUM advisors will usually be very transparent and say, hey, I charge 1% of your assets. It's worth it because I help you avoid mistakes and provide planning and yada, yada, yada. That may all be true. But the flat fee advisors are even simpler. They say, hey, it's by the hour or by the project. You can pay with the credit card. You can see the pricing on the website. It's how you pay for almost everything else in your life, except for maybe, medical care and things like that. And so it's very transparent. And in my opinion, it has the least conflict of interest because they're not trying to get your assets under management and keep them there. They're not trying to sell you anything. They're just trying to give you good advice based on their expertise. Does it mean they're an excellent financial advisor? Of course not. Are some of the AUM advisors excellent? Absolutely. But I think and knowing how they make money is critical when deciding. And of course, if you know me, you know the pitch I'm about to give. I gave that whole rundown and pitch for years when people asked me what Jen just asked, should I see a financial advisor? Which one should I see? And I gave them this pitch. And usually what they'd say is, oh yeah, the flat fee, that's what I want. I want a flat fee advisor. How do I find one of those? And my answer was always, I have no idea. They're very hard to find. There's a few. They're very busy. It's a very fractured market. And so a couple of years ago, Vivi, Shane, and I, my two former PFC employees, friends, co-founders, started Nectarine, which is a flat fee financial advisor marketplace. So if you think you're ready for a financial advisor, you've gotten your education, you want to ask some specific questions, you can go to hellonectarine.com, see everyone's prices, sort by reviews, sort by availability. You can book an hour at a time, you can book a plan, or you can book a ongoing relationship with a dedicated advisor who's going to have your back always. And I think it's the right thing to do, which is why I love doing it.
Woo!
I know Jen is just, she's got a little.
We should end the episode here and just be like, this is the episode.
She's got toothpicks keeping her eyes open.
No, that was a really great answer. Very thorough. And if you're listening to this podcast, then you want a thorough answer. So we make no apologies here.
I listen to this podcast on my commute, and it seems to go pretty fast. I feel like when I originally dreamed of this podcast, I said, let's keep it to 20 minutes so it's really punchy. But I don't know. As long as we're having fun, I think the longer episodes are fine.
I listen to this podcast because it's my job, and it still goes by fast.
Yes, it's my job. You don't like it?
I hate listening to myself talk. No, I'm just kidding.